Howdy folks, hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about constructors in classes here. So where we left off, we were able to make a new chair, and then we got those weird defaults. Remember, any reference types, like the string was null, and then any primitive had a default. So the primitive types, the Boolean is false, the integer values are 0. And that's not always what you want. So if you want to write a constructor to give default values, you can write your own. So constructors are special. They don't have a return type. So they just have a public and then the name of the class here. So public chair is the constructor. So you notice, I'm sorry, these are public methods. I skipped over that a little bit here. You can have private methods. We're not going to worry about that right now. So we have private attributes, generally public methods, and we'll get into that later. So the chair constructor method here, this is the constructor method, has no return type. So that's how you know it's a constructor. The constructor's job is to construct the object, right? Or give values to the attributes. So Java will ask the operating system to give you space to store all of these things. We should go give it some values here. So I'll say my color is equal to a nothing empty string. I'll say my has arms is false until I know otherwise. You know, these defaults are okay. I always will recommend you type the defaults in yourself, right? Don't let these defaults happen. It's generally better to be very explicit about it, is my preference for these. So then our height in centimeters will be 0 until we know otherwise. A min and max will be 0. Again, so just copy paste a couple of these here. 0, and then give it a nice little format, Control-Alt-L here to format, we'll line all that up for us here. So now we have our own constructor that sets defaults, but now color won't be null here, right? Which is probably okay. We weren't doing a whole lot with it before, but if, here, let me actually go comment this out real fast here. Give that a comment out. So if we made a chair, Eric's chair, and then we tried to print the chair, given the Eric's chair and Eric, it should work. But we're going to get a funny output, right? It's going to look really weird when we get color. We get Eric's chair color is null. Okay, yeah, that's not the worst thing in the world. But what if in our chair details we said, hey, if chair.getColor.equals ignore case black here, and then, you know, if we were doing this, if you had a black chair, maybe you did something special here. Cool chair, I don't know. Why not? So if the chair color was black, right, then we can say, okay, it's a cool chair. Now what we get here is a crash. You get exception in thread main, null pointer exception. That's why nulls are really bad here. String equals ignore case because the return value of chair get color is null. It's telling us we got back a null. You can't compare null to something else. It's just invalid. Doesn't work, right? Because there's nothing to compare. Null is like doesn't exist at all. And you can see it started at main at line 8, got to main at line 31. This is the line that errored, told me because chair get color is null. Now, a couple things you could do technically. If you wanted to, we could say black dot equals ignoring case chair dot get color here. That's probably a little bit better here. So black get color. And that's a little safer because black will never be null, and if it equals something that's null, it just won't ever equal null. This will always be false here. So I'll actually leave both of these in here. So let's leave the other version here. So if chair get color dot equals ignoring case black. Cool chair. So this will crash. This will crash on null value for color. And this one won't crash. This won't crash because black never equals null. So it's fine to compare to null, but you can't take null and compare that to something else. So the order matters here a lot. So again, that's only if we don't write our own constructor. So Java is happy to give you a default constructor. But once you write your own constructor, then Java says, oh, you don't need my default constructor. We can go away. So now when I do this, it's not going to crash here in either case. But what I get now is my chair color is blank because it's just an empty string. It doesn't have a value. Then I can go set some values here for it. Okay, so we have a constructor with setting some values. So a no argument constructor or a default constructor. right? So it takes no arguments or it's the default constructor. These can be very helpful. Now, the other thing we can do is you can write another constructor if you want that has arguments or parameters. So I can say, okay, give me a string for color, give me a Boolean for has arms, and all these sorts of things. Or if you don't like typing stuff, right, you can say generate, and you can say generate a constructor and say, yes, give me all of these attributes, please. It's a little long here, so I'm going to bump that down one, just because my screen's a little long. We'll say, okay, I'm going to make a method here, public chair, with a color, has arms, height in centimeters, minimum height, maximum height, and we're good to go. So you tell me what the height is, you tell me the min and the max, and we're off to the races. Now, the problem here is we're still not checking for invalid values here, right? So really, we should be checking that the height is not greater than the max and not less than the minimum here. But I don't want to have to copy paste that code in here twice, right? That's really not what I want to do here. Really not ideal. So what we can do is I can take all of this code here and I can cut it out and make my own private method. So this is validate chair height. And all it needs to do is check if it's greater than the max, set it to the max. If it's less than the min, set it to the min. Otherwise, nothing happens. So in my public method here, I can call a private method validate chair height. Now, this is private, means you can't use it outside of the class. And outside of the class means over in main, I can't say Eric's chair.validate. There is no option there's no method available to me to validate the chair height. It's a private method, so I don't have access to it. So that's one of those ideas. I'm encapsulating the details. I'm hiding away with the details here and only giving you access to this public application programming interface, this API, through the public methods. So we can set all of those, and then we can validate the chair height here. Right? We'll take all those values. So then when I want to make a chair, I don't need to call all these different sets. I can say, hey, Eric's chair equals a new chair, and then give it some parentheses. I can give it the color of black, and then I can give it true has arms, and then 20 and 40. Oh, I think it was, yeah, so here we go. There we go. IntelliJ is really nice. It tells me, it kind of suggests what some of these are here. So height in centimeters should be 30, minimum height should be 20, and then maximum height here should be 40. It's going to kind of show me some names there, which is really nice. And I don't have to do any of these sets now. Right? So if I give this a run, it will run the constructor that takes the arguments, which is super handy. So, hey, it's a cool chair now because it's black, right? When we print the chair details, if the color's black, we say cool chair. Black at 30, cool chair, black at 35, 25, 40, and 20. Jeb's is gray, his is not a cool chair, apparently. So you can have constructors that take values or don't take values. Now, depending on your class here and what we're trying to model, some of these values should change and some should not. So technically you can change the color of a chair. It's probably pretty difficult to do that. So what I can do then is I can get rid of the set color method and say, once you give me a color here in the constructor, you can never change it again. Right? So you tell me what color it is when you make the chair, I'm going to assume you're not going to paint it. So if that's the case, we don't want someone to have this no argument constructor here because they need to give me a color. Now, arms can change, right? You can put the arms on and off. Usually it's just some screws here. So you can set that has arms true or false. You can get the current height. You can adjust the chair height. You can validate the chair height. We can get the min and get the max and set the min and set the max. That's probably changeable depending on your chair hardware. Maybe those don't change. Maybe we take out those as well. So we'll say we don't want an access for someone to change this. So what you would say is this attribute here then is immutable. This attribute won't change. So once you've set it via the constructor, you won't change it again. So I'm going to go comment out those other ones here. Probably commenting out was probably better than just deleting them outright, but that's okay. So there's get. Okay, here's the max. We'll comment that one out as well. So we don't want this to change, be changeable. Right, so once I know what the max is, once I know what the min is, we don't want it to change. Okay, there is no set for current height either, right? We got rid of the set here. The only way you can change it is by adjusting the chair height with that public method. So now I can't make Jeb's chair this way, and there is no default constructor. There is no argument constructor. So to make Jeb's chair then, I have to say, okay, it is gray, and false, it has no arms, and we'll say it's at 30, 20, and 40 is probably the min and the max. Or maybe this one doesn't move at all. Maybe we'll just leave it at 30 and 30 for min and max, because why not? Right? We can do those. All right, so that's looking at constructors in our class. So if you accept a value as an argument, and you don't have a set method for it, it is immutable. We're not letting anyone change those properties, which is, depending on our class, is going to make a lot of sense. You can't change the color of the chair, but you can put the arms, you can take the arms on, put the arms off, or take the arms off, put the arms back on, right? Let's just unscrew the arms or screw them on. So it makes sense for that. The height can change, but only by our adjust method. So you're not going to set it directly here. You can say, hey, I want to adjust it this high up, or go up this much or go down this much, and we'll try it, and then we'll make sure you are a valid, not greater than max, not lower than minimum. Okay? All right, folks, I'll see you in the next video.